Hello and welcome to the State of Shakespeare. I'm Gerd Vandermeer. Jim Elliott is away today, but we're delighted to be joined by Nancy Voigts. Nancy, did I say your name correctly?
You did. Congratulations. How many people do? They never spell it correctly, so good job.
Nancy is a veteran Chicago actor, a two-time Jeff Award winner who's appeared at many of the city's leading theaters, including the Marriott Theater, the Goodman Theater, and Chicago Shakespeare Theatre. She's currently playing Mistress Quickly in Chicago Shakespeare Theatre's production of The Merry Wives of Windsor. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
It's great to have you. What a fun play.
It is zany. It is really wacky play. Yes, it's very fun. We're having a blast.
All right. So, of course, the first question we have to ask is why this play now? What makes Chicago Shakespeare's production of The Merry Wives unique and special in 2026?
Well, I think because it's just incredibly enjoyable. It's just nothing but pure entertainment and laughs and heart. And it's just a great amusement. And I think that's why it was written to be just super entertaining. And I think in this world right now, we can really use something that's just mindless, fun entertainment.
I think this was one of the first Shakespeare plays I ever saw.
Really?
Yeah, I saw it an outdoor production at a little park in Indianapolis, Indiana,
Oh, I love it.
when I was probably 11 or 12.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. And you remember it?
I remember that I enjoyed it, but
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was about. So for my sake and for the sake of our listeners, give us a quick synopsis.
Oh my goodness, a quick synopsis. Well, it really focuses on the character of Falstaff, who is one of Shakespeare's greatest clowns and characters, beloved characters. And he appears in several Shakespeare plays. And apparently the Queen wanted Shakespeare to, everybody loves this character of Shakespeare. He's this like loud, drunken, big ego guy. And the Queen wanted Shakespeare to write a play about Falstaff being in love. And so I just in thinking that perhaps Shakespeare thought, well, I can't imagine that scenario. So he wrote this play, and it's basically about there's the Fords and the Pages, these two middle-aged couples. And the Fords are very wealthy, and the Pages are pretty wealthy. And Falstaff needs money. And he also has a huge ego. So he thinks, I'm going to have an affair with Mrs. Ford and with Mistress Page. I'm going to flatter them both, and then I'm going to be able to get all their money, and that'll be a great thing. So it's kind of that. Then it's also about the Pages have a daughter, Anne Page, who is about ready to come into a lot of money when she turns 17. So there are three suitors who are also vying for her affections, two of which are clowns, and one is with the leading man person who, of course, gets her in the end. So it's all about people trying to lure other people into being their love or their acquisition, I suppose. And of course, when something like that happens, there's all kinds of mishaps and misunderstandings. And my character, Mistress Quickly, is like the go-between between everybody. Mistress Ford and Mistress Page, they each get they get the exact same letter with just their different name, Mistress Ford and Mistress Page, from Falstaff, like declaring his love for them and like buttering them up and all this stuff. And they're the exact same. And they're like, what is this? And plus they just think Falstaff is just a character. And so they said, well, we're going to play a trick on him, and we're going to pretend that, yes, indeed, we absolutely want to meet him. And, oh, we're so flattered and all these things. So I'm the kind of the go-between. I like deliver the message to Falstaff that like Mistress Ford can't wait to meet you, and then Mistress Page, she can't wait to meet you, and then I also am the go-between between the three suitors for young Anne. So I'm just kind of the go-between between all of the couples that tries to make things happen, and of course things get all messed up and it's silly. So
All right.
she's really fun. Yeah. So that's kind of what the play is about.
So Mistress Quickly, she's a very interesting character. As you mentioned, this crowd, the regulars at the Boar's Head Tavern feature in many of Shakespeare's plays.
Yes.
Had to look up how many. I think they're in Henry IV,
She's in the
Part
so
One,
Henry.
Henry IV, Part Two, Henry
Yeah.
Five,
And she's a little
Wives.
different in this one. And those she's a little saucier and sexier and harder. And this one she's just She still has a lot of malapropisms where she says things that are not exactly right. But she's just kind of the busybody. This play is set pretty much in modern times, and the doctor in this. There's a doctor who's one of those goofy suitors for Anne. He's French and he's really silly. He's got this accent and everything is zutolo, And I'm basically his secretary. So my character's kind of like a secretary, and who then also like goes in between all of these people. But yeah, she's loud and her mind switches back and forth between things, and she's excited about her task and she thinks she knows everybody, and she's kind of a busybody person.
Now, to what extent is Mistress Quickly aware of what she's saying? And to what extent
Oh,
is
I think
she
she thinks everything she says
unintentionally?
is wonderful. I don't think she has a clue when she says things incorrectly at all. She never like corrects herself. And she's just going kind of from one thought to the next. She's here and then she's here and then she's here and then she's there. So she's just always buzzing. And I think she thinks pretty high of herself. I think she thinks she's like she knows everybody and everybody likes her and she's really smart and she knows what she's doing. And that's not always the case, but she thinks so. Yeah.
So in a way, she's a mistress of misinformation, not disinformation. She's not intending to deceive.
Yes, yes. But I mean, the information she's supplying to the people who's like, given her these tasks, she does a pretty good job. But yes, as far as when she's speaking, she doesn't always say the right things, but she just keeps going. She just keeps going. Yeah.
Does she in any way, when she's embroiled in all of these intrigues, is she in any way aware of the role that she's playing, or is she
I think
completely
she is. I think
oblivious?
that she is, and I think she thinks that it's pretty cool that she's like in on everything and that she knows all the secrets, right? That she knows everything that's going on. I think she's very proud of that. Absolutely. I've been tasked with this, like these things. Yeah.
Is this a character that you've played before?
Never. I've played lots of secretaries, but I've never played Mistress Quickly. And she's not I mean, in the original, she's not a secretary. She's like works at the bar, but on those plays you were referencing before. But here she's the secretary in our production.
So for you as an actor, was there a moment when Mistress Quickly suddenly made sense to you as a human being rather than as just a comic character?
I just kind of got her right away. I think she's pretty, what you see is what you get. I don't think there's a lot of
Does she have a lot of
understories about
common?
her.
Does she have a lot in common with Nancy Voigts? Or
In some ways, but she really is just what you see is what you get. She's what's on the page. There's not a lot of depth to her. I don't think she's got a lot of like stories that, propel her to feel one way or the other. I just think she's just pretty basic. And I think that's what's fun about her, that she's just she's just out there. Yeah. Yeah.
so how are these other roles that you played in your career prepared you to take on this role?
I actually haven't done a whole lot of Shakespeare, I'll be honest with you. This will be my fourth Shakespeare play. So not a lot, but I've done a ton of musical theater. That's mostly what I've done in the past. And surprisingly, it turns out really that musical theater performers are pretty good at playing Shakespeare because it also is like a heightened sensibility. And, when somebody breaks into song, that's not somebody that people just do on the street, right? And it's like in Shakespeare, when somebody does a monologue or speaks to the audience, that's not natural either, right? So it's the kind of thing where this is what directors tell me, I'm not making this up because I'm not that smart, but that in a musical, when the emotion gets so much, the only thing that they can do is sing. Like that's the only thing else that they can do. And it's the same way with like, Hamlet's To Be or Not to Be. Like he gets so much emotion that's what comes out. So there's a similarity in it, and there's a certain, I think, presentationalness of it, but still making it honest, which I think is something that you have to have in a musical because that's not a normal thing. People don't live in music. Well, some people probably do, but you know what I mean. So I think playing Shakespeare is similar in that way, especially in these comedies, and the way that she interacts with the audience and that like a singer interacts with an audience too. So for me, the language is hard because obviously it's a different way of speaking, right? And that's something that I had to start working on this a long time ago so that I could memorize it, and not be nervous about because it's not natural, right? We don't speak like this. But it was cool because in the first few days of rehearsal, we all sat around and we read through the play We read through the play first, and then we took it line by line, and we had to paraphrase each line. Like, what does that mean in English? So that it would make sense, right? Because some of these, you're like, what does that mean? But if you know yourself what it is you're saying, then hopefully, even though the language is heightened, the audience will understand what it is you're saying as well. And also, there's a lot of words that are different that we don't use, or names or things. And so when we were going through the play, we also like made a list of like, well, what words don't we know? What do these mean? So that everything makes sense to us, so that we can make sense for the audience.
Oh, we love it. See, these sorts of table readings are the things that this is what Jim and I and Shakespeare nerds just absolutely live for.
Oh,
And
this
that
was the best. This was
everyone
so
else
great.
finds totally insufferable. The design team sitting around the table on the first day wants to
No,
just
it was great. And
kill
like I say,
themselves.
and we didn't, and I wish we had time to go through the whole play and do that. We went through about a third of it, but we got through every character got to experience paraphrasing some of their lines. But we didn't even, it wasn't even like I was paraphrasing my lines. The director would just say, okay, Tim, what is that? Paraphrase that line for us. And wasn't his character. It's just so that we all got a sense of how to do that on our own. Like how you, when you go home and you're finishing up, what we didn't get to do in the room, that kind of what you're doing, about how the paraphrasing works. And that definitely helps, because it's not normal language that we speak today, right? And if you get lost in the language when you're on stage, you have to know what's going on in your head, so that you know what the story is, because that's what you're telling. So you can find it, instead of just memorizing the lines. That's hard.
Do you have a favorite line of Mistress Quickly's?
Well, I have a favorite. Everything she says is really fun. Well, I did pick out a passage that I was going to like go
I
through.
would love to hear it.
Yeah. Well, this is a really fun scene where she has been tasked with Mistress Page and Mistress Ford to go to Falstaff and convince him that they want to meet with him, and that like they are so flattered by his letters, and that they are like just like hot for him, right? And so she goes and she has to convey their feelings to him and make him believe that, because I say like, and she wants to meet with you between 3 and 4. He's like, 3 and 4. Yes, because her husband won't be home, like that kind of thing. And so it's really fun, because she's like baiting the hook and reeling him in, and then of course at the end he does, and they completely fool him, and they throw him in a basket in the river. I mean, like it's kind of a mean play. But he's kind of an ass, so and he's funny. So I don't know. Do you want me to go do this now? The passage?
Yes,
Yeah, cool. Well,
absolutely.
this, like I say, this is part of that scene, and this is she's come and she said, I have to talk to you about something. And he's like, what? And I'm like, well, I have come to you from Mistress Ford. And so, oh, Mistress Ford, what does she have to say? And he knows he's given the letters and she's read the letter. So I'm buttering him up. And he says, well, so Mistress Ford, what does she say? And I say, Mary, this is the short and the long of it. You have brought her into such a canary's as 'tis wonderful. The best courtier of them all, when the court lay at Windsor, could never have brought her to such a canary. Yet there have been knights and lords and gentlemen with their coaches. Oh, I warrant you, coach after coach, letter after letter, gift after gift, smelling so sweetly al musk and so rustling, I warrant you, in silk and gold, and in such elegant terms, and in such wine and sugar of the best and the fairest, that would have won any woman's heart. And I warrant you, they could never get an eye wink of her. And then he's like, well, what else? What else? So it's that kind of thing. And then she goes on and they talk, and then she says, but I have another messenger to your worship. Mistress Page hath her hearty commendations to you too. And let me tell you in your ear, she is as fortuous, a civil, modest wife, and one, I tell you, that will not miss you morning nor evening prayer, as any is in Windsor, who e'er be the other. And she bade me tell your worship that her husband is seldom from home, but she hopes there will come a time. I never knew a woman so dote upon a man. Surely, I think you have charms. La, yes, in truth. So she's just fun, right? She just, totally, and he gets totally getting reeled in, but like, oh, yes, I'll be there, kind of a thing. And he's getting, you can just see in his face, like, oh, yes. He does say, I think you have charms lie, yes, in truth. And he says, oh, not I assure thee. Setting the attractions of my good parts aside, I have no other charms. So he becomes totally like filled up with all this, bullshit that she's throwing his way. And yeah, so it's just really fun. And then I leave and then another character comes in and does like the same thing to him. And he just, he just goes for it. And so then when he gets fooled, tricked, it's just hilarious because he's so gullible and he's been such an ass, to think that this, is true. And yeah, it's very fun.
So this is great. The language is pretty straightforward and easy for a modern
It's
audience to
it's this,
understand.
this mostly, and I believe, again, I'm not an expert on this, but I believe there's more prose in this play than most Shakespeare plays. Most Shakespeare plays have a lot of verse, as you know, with the iambic pentameter and the rhyming and whatnot. And this is mostly in prose. So I think it is in some ways a little easier for the ear because it is more natural in that way. And then when it goes into the verse, apparently that's a clue, like that's a more heightened thing than the prose. So it gives you the clue, like that's to be, it has a different sense to it.
That makes sense. This play is populated by some of the earthier characters.
Oh, very much so. And it is, I mean, it is, yeah, there are no kings or queens or dukes or anything. They're just people that live in Windsor. And then there's Falstaff has kind of a merry band of men like Robin Hood, kind of rough and tough guys. And yeah, so it's just kind of normal. They're kind of just normal people, which I think also makes it funny because you can relate to them because it's not King Richard or, Queen Anne or whatever. It's just, it's more like everyday folk.
So in this speech that you shared, there's at least one malapropism that we can identify, which is, and I may be incorrect here, but the repeated use of the word canary. What
Well, yes. I mean, I think, yes, exactly. It's just such a like a flurry, such a like excitement. She uses the word canary. Yeah,
is
yes,
that?
like a fluttering bird.
Is that a term that you think would have been unique to Mistress Quickly, or is this a term that would have been in popular usage at the
I don't
time?
know. I'm going to tell you right now, I really don't know the answer to that. I'll be honest.
I don't know either. This is something that
I'll have to look that
some
up.
Shakespeare
I
scholar
should
is
have
going to
been
have to
better
let us
prepared for that
know.
question.
Is there a joke embedded in there that's lost to time, or is this just a peculiarity that makes
I don't
Mistress
know. I
Quickly
mean, again,
canny?
the language is different, obviously, the references, but yeah, it's very descriptive. I mean, I love the way it's just so descriptive and the way she keeps saying all these things that, ooh, and this and that, and yeah.
So these intrigues are evocative of similar intrigues that happen in other Shakespeare
Hmm.
plays, right? The gulling of Falstaff is not too dissimilar from the gulling of Malvolio, right?
Oh, you know what? It's very similar. It's very similar. And it's so sad. Like what happens to Malvolio, you feel so bad for him. And you feel bad for Falstaff too, but he's such a pompous ass that in some ways you kind of like to see him get his comeuppance. And in the end, there's this big scene where they do trick him and they're like, ha ha ha, now who's the cuckold now? It's you, blah, blah, blah. And it's mean. I mean, it's mean. But in the end, all is well, of course, and Anne marries the perfect suitor, and all the parents are like, all is good, and the Fords are fine, and Mrs. Page says, and now we all are going to come in basically, and we're going to have a party, even you, Sir John. Like she invites him to come to the party too. So it's not so Malvolio's is really, I think, you feel bad for him. They make so
Yes.
much fun of him.
Yes, the ending is quite bitter.
Yeah,
It's very
so
different. Very
this
different
is not
tone.
quite as heavy. I see this as a play that I bet the groundlings just loved this play, because it's just more, like you say, earthy and silly and about people, not about royalty.
Speaking of relationships in the play, what is Mistress Quickly's relationship with Falstaff? Is she exasperated with him? Is she fond of him? Is she
Oh,
opportune? Is
I
there
think
something
that
more?
Oh, there's not like she has a crush on him or anything like that, but I think she loves the fact that she has this knowledge that he doesn't know, like that she knows these, like what she's doing. He has no idea that what she's saying is a trick, So I think she just loves that she's completely gulled him into believing what she's saying. I think she gets a big kick out of it. There are a lot, because I have like 3 or 4 scenes, not as lengthy as this one, where I come back to Falstaff because they want to meet him again. And he's like, oh, but the last time she's like, oh, no, 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 but this time kind of a thing. And every time she walks up, she looks at the audience with a kind of a look on her face, like, I got him. kind of a thing. And I think she loves it. I think she likes him, you know. I don't think she thinks he's horrible, but I think that she loves that she's in on the joke, you know, that she has this information that he doesn't. And she really enjoys that. And the same with she does similarly with the other three suitors. She's like, oh no, she loves you. Oh, but she loves you. She loves you, kind of a thing with all of them. And so she's just playing off of everybody, you know. So she doesn't really have I don't think a particular relationship with anybody in the play, except for kind of being the town busybody. The director was saying she's the receptionist at the doctor's office. So she knows everybody. She knows all their information. She just knows everybody.
So, on to another nerdy sort of
Yes.
technical question for you. Have you worked in this theater space before?
Yes, I have. I worked first for Chicago Shakespeare when it was Shakespeare Rep, when it was at the Ruth Page, you know, it was Barbara Gaines started this company long time ago. And I was, gosh, way long time ago. It was right after I got married. So it was about 1992. And I was in a production of Romeo and Juliet. No, I wasn't. I was in a production of Taming of the Shrew. I always say it, Taming of the Shrew. And I played Bianca, who's like the bratty little sister of Kate, who's like the perfect, pretty, but she's a brat. I played her. And then the first thing I did in this space, I was in a wonderful production of Comedy of Errors that Barbara had hired a wonderful writer from Second City named Ron West to write an outer story. And the premise of the play was that it took place during the Blitz in London during World War II. And we were putting on, we were the Shepperton Movie Studios, which is a studio in London, and we were making the film of the Comedy Airs for the troops. So the outer stories were all characters in the production studio. So I was the nerdy secretary, and you know, but then but then I'm in the film, and in the film I play the courtesan. You know, so like it was opposite kind of a thing. And it was so funny. It was so funny. And unfortunately, and it got great reviews. And I won the best play that year award at the Jeffs. But I remember the reviews were like, the outer story is just so entertaining. We just wanted more of that because the characters were so fun. And that was just in like regular, like I'm talking to you now language with a British accent, of course. But it wasn't, you know, and then we'd click, okay, rolling, you know, and then we'd go into the play. It was really great. The audience loved it. It was so much fun. So I did that. And then I did a production. I do a lot of musicals, and Chicago Shakespeare is also known for doing a lot of Sondheim. And I was in an incredible production of Follies here that was just a dream. And it was a really big, big hit for this theater. I've never been in a show where you just you couldn't get a ticket. I mean, I think it's also because nobody does that show. And there's so many songs from it that are just big favorites of folks. So it was and it was an incredible honor to be in that. And then 4 years ago, I was in a production of As You Like It that was it was set with Beatles music. And it was really cool. And it worked out brilliantly. It was the play. There was nothing like they didn't change the script or anything, but they would insert Beatles songs in certain points that completely, it was like it was written that way. It was pretty amazing how they structured that. It was a Canadian producing and writing team that brought this play here. And the characters in the play also were parts of the band. And I'm a piano player, so I played some piano, and they needed a bass player. So I like learned how to play the bass for a little bit, which was really fun. But that was super fun. Again, it's just like the different ways you can tell Shakespeare stories, right? And
Mhm.
this was with Beatles music. And it took place in the 60s, and we had all these wild costumes, and it was super fun.
Well, you've teed up my final question for you in a
Yes.
beautiful way, and it's this. Now, if Shakespeare were sitting in the rehearsal room today, what do you think would surprise him most about this production?
Just how much fun we are having, how much we are loving the language and discovering these characters and how they play off of each other, and how, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of years have passed. And it's just still so entertaining, and people get it because human nature doesn't change, right? I mean, it's kind of still the same. And so it's these stories and these relationships are pretty relatable. And I think he would be blown away by that, right? That something he wrote. And again, this one, like he didn't want to write this one. He was like asked to write it. So he was like, oh, I guess I have to write this. But that, like, it's so popular and people are still loving it. And we are having a blast. We are just this director is so much fun, and everybody is so talented and so nice, and we're just having a great time. And I think he would be thrilled. I think he would be thrilled that people are still doing this play, right? It's crazy.
What a tremendous answer. I think the marketing people around the show would be foolish not to have you as the spokesperson for every interview.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Well, this is a production of the Merry Wives of Windsor, directed by Philip Breen at the Chicago Shakespeare Theatre. It's stacked with an ensemble cast of Chicago's best and brightest, including the delightful Nancy
Oh, I don't know
Voigts.
about that, but thank you. I know you're reading something that was written, so good job.
Well, I wrote it. And audiences can see this play April 3rd through May 3rd on Chicago's Navy Pier.
Yep, it's going to be great. It's really going to be great. It's going to be really fun. So come and see it. You will have a good time, I promise.
Nancy, thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you so much. It was so nice to meet you. I really appreciate the time.
I'm Garrett Vandermeer, and thank you for listening to The State of Shakespeare. That's it. Wow. I'm not a Chicago person, but I've seen 2 Chicago Shakespeare Theatre productions. I saw
What'd
one
you
in the Old Space.
What'd you think?
I saw a production with Stephen Petkoff.
Robert
1897.
Petkoff.
Sorry,
Yes.
Robert Petkoff.
Yes. Yep.
Which just blew my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah. Amazing.
changed my
I mean,
life.
that space was
Literally
cool
changed
because
my
it was smaller, so you were way more into it.
I can't believe I even remembered Petkoff was alive. Do you know?
You know why? Because Robert, I still don't.
Thanks for joining us for the State of Shakespeare podcast. We invite you to visit stateofshakespeare.com for more episodes, information about each of our guests, and the Shakespeare text you heard on the program, and much more. And we welcome you to join the discussion by liking us on Facebook. That's www.stateofshakespeare.com. Thanks for listening.